All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Walmart Business is in the business of helping your business. Regardless of whether you're building bridges, building spreadsheets, or building lesson plans. Ooh, that looks fun. Walmart Business can help save you time, money, and hassle so you can focus on what you're building instead of what your supply closet is missing. In short, we take care of business so you can do more with yours. We're the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com.
Año nuevo, los mismos Extra Value Meals en McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawái, Alaska y California y con entrega.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to DBR Bites, episode number 136. As I mentioned, Donald here, Scott still here. We're doing this just right after episode 788, which is the recap of the Stanford game. So if you're listening to this and you did not catch the Stanford preview, you can go listen to that either before you listen to this or after. It's your world. You do what you need to do. But we wanted to get on here again and kind of separate this discussion from that of the basketball. And of course, we're talking about Darian Mensah on Friday night announcing that he was coming back to Duke for another year, announcing very, very late at the 11th hour, just hours before the transfer portal window closed, that he was entering the transfer portal. And there's a lot of talk about him going to the University of Miami, and we'll get into some of that speculation and some of the fallout that's going to happen as a result of it. I obviously put out my own little mini bites at the time. I said I wanted to continue to gather my thoughts and also have an opportunity for Scott to do this. Jason is still on his way back from Africa, so I'm sure on a future episode, Jason will have his thoughts on the Darian Mensah transfer and all that has fallen out from it. But Scott, I bring you in because I want to start with this. Darian Mensah, of course, I think a lot of people feel burned, and rightfully so, by the fact that just 17 days ago, he had this great video announcement that he was running it back. And he was like, hey, I'm coming back. We're going to try and go for more heights. You know, we obviously want to defend our ACC championship. We want to go for the college football playoff and contend for a national championship. And he felt that he could do that here at Duke. And then with just mere hours before the transfer portal window closed, he kind of, with a very small statement, said, I'm forever, an AI statement, as some people kind of pointed out, I'm forever grateful for Duke, but I'm entering the transfer portal. So give me your thoughts, just at least overall, as we start, on Darian Mensah deciding at the 11th hour to kind of change his mind and flip on Duke and go into the portal.
So my philosophy on the transfer portal in general and sort of how you live as a college sports fan in this era is that I don't begrudge anyone transferring because money is money and this is a job, right? The college athletes at this point, at this level, are using this as their means of income. Arguably, for some of them, this is their prime earning years of their lives. I do not begrudge any player leaving and transferring to maximize their income streams. Just like if you sitting at home got offered a job for, twice as much money, you get to go live in Miami. They're going to cover your contract, they're going to cover your moving expenses, blah, blah, blah. Very few of us would say, I'm not going to consider that. I think that's the perspective that you have to have in general. That said, also in the adult world, the working world, it's never a good idea to burn your bridges, right? If you are leaving your position for a new opportunity, at some point in your life, I don't know, you might need a reference letter from someone who you worked for, 5, 10 years ago. You might need to collaborate with your old company on a project, something like this. That's where I get a little bit frustrated by the Darian Mensah situation in particular, because he chose to do this in such a way to not just burn his bridges, but arguably, and we'll talk a bit about the fallout, sort of burn the entire program on his way out with some of the fallout and the secondary players and whatnot who are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem here. If Darian Mensah never made his "I'm coming back to Duke" announcement and decided to enter the portal, that sucks. He gave us a great year. It hurts our team, but that's the cost of doing business in the modern NCAA. But to say you're coming back, to make such a big deal about that, to give the Duke program weeks to build their roster around you, and then to pull the rug out from under them at the last minute, and then do so in such a way where, again, and again, some of this is rumor, less confirmed, but other players might be coming out the door with you. That's burning that bridge. And at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, what's the cost benefit of making a few extra $1 million versus completely destroying the relationships you had previously? That's something that, again, in my line of work is, in research, in your line of work in law, that wouldn't be something that we would necessarily do because relationships matter. Maybe slightly less so in the world of athletics, but I would argue, you still want to have that network. You still want to have fans of Duke University look back on your time somewhat fondly rather than despising you. Duke fans still love Riley Leonard for the most part, even though he transferred to Notre Dame. It was understandable. Mike Elko had just left. Duke was not in the state that it is now. He had the chance to go compete for a national championship at Notre Dame. I think most Duke fans really enjoyed when he got his chance to play for Indianapolis and start, those couple of games this year, because we still have really fond memories of that young man. That's going to serve him well in his life, having a Duke network supporting him. I don't think there's any Duke fans who are going to be feeling similarly about Darian Mensah. And I just hope that he factored that into his decision making. If he decided that the extra money that he was going to make from this year at Miami outweighed the lifetime of connections and relationships that he was burning, then he made the right decision for him. But I feel like too often in this world of agents and camps and everyone getting in someone's ear, that those factors aren't included in the decision making. And again, I hope Darian Mensah made the right decision for him rather than just making a knee-jerk reaction to a shiny dollar figure amount.
Well, the thing is, he made the decision for him and didn't consider anyone but him, right? And it's very evident, right? We've heard some rumors about other players, as you mentioned, that might have decided at the last minute to go out with him, not necessarily transfer to Miami or where he's transferring, but just to enter the transfer portal and keep their options open, because there were some guys who clearly were shocked by this news. If you look on social media, the amount of players who had WTF emojis type of thing or gifs where that you could clearly see that they were shocked at this news. It was half the team in the like hours after that announcement went public. And so you could tell, and you mentioned about the athletic bridges that you burn. Some of those players are going to be playing on Sundays with him, right? Like he's not going to have the opportunities to be like, oh yeah, I'll get to be drafted by this team. But those guys from Duke and from Tulane, like, let's not play with any of those guys. Let's not get any of those guys. He's gonna interact with some of these players at the next level in his career. That's just going to happen. I mean, you just mentioned the Indianapolis thing, right? Like Daniel Jones and Riley Leonard are on the same team. Riley Leonard backs up Daniel Jones. I'm sure Riley Leonard is considered a part of the program just like Daniel Jones is. And I'm sure together, that's how you were able to have this sync where, okay, Daniel Jones goes down. Sure, they got Phillip Rivers for a couple of weeks, but really it was about Riley Leonard being healthy and ready to go. And I'm sure someone who was helping with that was a guy who was a part of the same program he was. And so those do matter at the next level, which is what Darian Mensah aspires to be. And maybe, again, as you mentioned, maybe he doesn't care about those because he's obviously going to be playing with a lot of Miami guys at the next level too. But that is part of this process. This is why the brotherhood in basketball is so profound and how so many other universities have tried to mimic that kind of fraternity because it means something. And at the next level, no matter what, those guys see each other and they know that they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And that bridge will forever be connected with them. So there's that part. I want to switch to another thing that obviously has come up, and that's the contract that Darian Mensah reportedly had with Duke. It was 2 years, up to $8 million, so up to $4 million per year. And according to several reports out there, there was this provision that Duke held the exclusive NIL rights for Darian Mensah for the life of the contract, and that if he wanted to leave and go somewhere else, those NIL rights did not follow with him. Duke held on to them unless they and they alone decided they wanted to terminate the contract. Now, as I mentioned a little bit on the bites, this presents a tricky situation because the natural reaction Scott for most Duke fans was sue them to oblivion, right? Sue them. That's not always the right answer. And I'm saying this as an attorney who makes a living off of other people suing people, right? It's not always the end all be all best case scenario. The questions that you have to ask yourself, if you're Duke University, there's three questions. Can they enforce it? Would they enforce it? And should they enforce it? And in this case, I think those are three different answers. Can they enforce it? Sure, they can enforce it. Will they? Remains to be seen. Should they? I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that question and what's best for Duke University, because I want to bring up a situation that's very relevant. Just last year, there's a defender by the name of Xavier Lucas who left Wisconsin and transferred to Miami. And Wisconsin sued Miami for tampering because he had an NIL deal and he backed out of that deal and said, yeah, I know I signed this contract with you, but I'm going to Miami. That case, right, is Wisconsin trying to get money from Miami for the NIL money that they were going to pay Xavier Lucas, and basically to kind of sue for the terms of that contract. I just want to let everyone know that we could do that with Darian Mensah. Duke obviously can't do that, right? But it's not going to stop him from playing. With the exception of the first half, because Xavier Lucas got a targeting call in the Fiesta Bowl. Xavier Lucas is playing on Monday, the national championship game. That case is still pending in court. And his attorney is Darian Mensah's attorney. So this is a whole thing where they know that, yes, you can sue if you want to, but do you want to tie up Duke in red tape for a couple of years over one player's contract? And the should they part goes back to, how will that affect the program? How will that affect contracts in general? And it's going to be an interesting way, it's going to be an interesting decision for Duke because they could try and set the market in a way. They could say, hey, NCAA, since you're not going to do this, you're not going to make regulations, we're going to have to do it through the enforcement of this contract by legal measures. And if they get this right, then you may have it where players will never sign a 2-year deal again because they'll want to back out of it if they do well. And schools are never going to offer it again because they know players can just break it and it won't matter. So then you also have, again, the reputation of the program. I'm sure they're weighing the notion that they don't want to be viewed as the program that sues people because that's not going to attract top talent, which is what we're trying to do. And we're already having this situation where Darian Mensah is kind of providing yet another example of our real reality that Duke football to some of these guys is just a stepping stone to somewhere else. It happened with Mike Elko. It's now happening with Darian Mensah. I mean, if you think about some of the guys who left our program last year and transferred to what would be considered better football programs, and again, did that without burning bridges, and we wish them well, but a lot of guys probably still view Duke football as a stepping stone to somewhere else that is a major program, a blue blood program. And I know we don't want to hear that, but that's what I'm seeing through this. And so Duke has to weigh the option of, yeah, we could sue. And I'm sure the emotional reaction, as I mentioned, is to sue them to oblivion, get all the money we possibly can. And that's probably something they're weighing. But there's also that part of it too, with how will that affect future contract deals and also how that will affect the reputation of the program. I know that's a lot, Scott. React to whatever you want with it, but I just had to make sure that part was put out there about that contract.
So I want to respond to two things. One, with the suing element of this story, there's the, when you talk about punishing wrongdoing, there's sort of the theory of punitive versus restorative justice.
Correct.
Are you, if someone is broken a law, are you putting them in jail for as long as possible because that's what makes you feel better because they've wronged you? Or is the punishment designed to make society better and make sure that crime doesn't happen again, et cetera, et cetera?
Does the punishment fit the crime?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a philosophical question for another day. But I think it does sort of fit here because Duke fans would feel a hell of a lot better if we sue Darian Mensah into oblivion. But does that punitive nature of that, of doing that actually accomplish anything? Does it make the Duke program better? Does it make the college football landscape better? That I'm not entirely sure of. The other element of this is that it almost feels like the NCAA is it's not, it doesn't feel like this. The NCAA is daring someone else to do their job for them. The NCAA would love for Duke to sue, would love for this to get settled in the court of law, and then the NCAA can put up his hands and say whatever the ruling ends up being, that's the policy. And the issue with that is no university is going to want that on their plate. No single program is going to want to put their neck on the line for the sake of the NCAA. And I don't think Duke should be doing that. Duke should not be putting its reputation on the line trying to do the job of the NCAA. And that's why I think in all likelihood this is going to get settled with, some sort of compensation, some sort of buying out the contract, rather than any sort of prolonged, punitive lawsuit. And this is why the only solution to this moving forward is either the NCAA finding the cojones or getting the power to, actually regulate the sport, or which something that is, gaining more and more momentum, as we speak, treating the players as employees and collectively bargaining. That I'm more and more convinced is the only way we get something that bears a passing resemblance to the college athletics that we know and love. That is the only way that, hey, contracts are part of the CBA. You players have agreed to this. You can't break your contract. Hey, you can't transfer every year without a year off, without losing a year of eligibility, et cetera, you have agreed to this. As of today, the NCAA has always just set forth rules from on high, and the players have just sort of had to agree to that because that is all there is. We have passed the Rubicon. We have gone past the point where any of that makes sense. We're thinking of these players as amateurs in any sense of the word makes sense. Heck, sometimes even the term student athlete doesn't make sense anymore. We're lucky enough at Duke that it does. In most places, I don't think it really does. It certainly doesn't for these guys who are playing for 4 schools in 4 years. It's time for college sports fans, it's time for the NCAA to stop pretending like we're living in a different world. College sports can be saved, quote unquote. We can still have college sports that are what we know and love, where players are representing our school, where we have that personal investment in the program. That's what makes college sports so great. That's what makes college sports different from professional sports, is you have an investment in that team because you went to that school. You wear those colors across your chest just like those players did. You've put in your blood, sweat, and tears screaming at that game. You've put your own money in to help support the team. That you have a sense of ownership and investment in a college team that you never will in a professional team, at least in the United States. I'm sure you would attest to the fact that, overseas in the world of, European football, that's not entirely the case. Mm-hmm. But we can save that. We can save that element of the college game that makes it so great if we accept reality. If we accept the fact that big-time college athletes are employees of the school and need to be collectively bargained with. There's a solution. It's an easy solution. It's the keep it simple, stupid solution. Someone just has to, again, have the cojones to say, it's about time we embrace where we are.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
It's the final chapter of the college football playoff.
It comes down to this.
Miami's unmatched grit and tenacity through the postseason has led them home. The national title now within reach.
They are confident. They are battle-tested.
Undefeated Indiana, led by Chris Signetti and Heisman winner Fernando Mendoza, have the chance to take home their first title and claim college football immortality.
The most remarkable turnaround in the history of college football.
The College Football Playoff National Championship presented by AT&T. Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and the ESPN app.
Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan are back in Disney's Freakier Friday, now streaming on Disney+.
We switched bodies.
I am freaking out right now.
I think I just peed a little.
It's an absolute riot. And the only movie that can be described as
so much weirder than the last time.
What last time?
It's the frequel.
You ready?
We've been waiting for.
That absolutely slays.
Disney's Freakier Friday, now streaming on Disney+, rated PG.
Support for the Fans First Sports Network comes from Hyper Natural Style. Men's Journal calls it the best men's polo shirt of 2024. Hyper Natural offers polos, tees, and button-ups that deliver unmatched comfort and style. Hyper Natural is a new generation of clean bio-performance clothing that reduces impact on the planet as well as your own health. Hyper Natural created the first ever shirts made from jade stone and crab shells. Supreme natural comfort and cooling performance without harmful chemicals and plastic polyester. Visit hypernaturalstyle.com and receive 20% off at checkout using promo code FFSN. That's hypernaturalstyle.com using FFSN. Thank you for your support.
And honestly, it's almost like the NCAA wants there to be tampering. Because here's the thing. In this particular case, there's no tampering. right? And a lot of these situations, it's not the school calling the player that's not in the portal and saying, we'd love for you to come. A lot of times it's their agents kind of shopping around their player, their client, to other schools. And in the case of a Miami, a Tennessee, and Ole Miss, who had been striking out on all of these other portal QBs, I'm sure this is a situation where his agent was kind of like, hey, yo, like if my guy entered the portal, what would that mean to you? How would you react to that? It happens all the time. Coaches have mentioned that they get calls from agents all the time saying, hey, my guy wants to come to your school, but here's what he wants. And it's not tampering if they initiate the conversation, right? So there's that. I also think with regards to the actual contract, I will say that there's a lot of people out there opining about what Duke should do and how they should sue and all this stuff. There are like probably 6 people who know what this contract looks like. Darian Mensah, his agent, his lawyer, the team at Duke that negotiated the contract, Duke's lawyer, like, and maybe like Nina King or not. Maybe not.
It's got to be lawyers, plural.
Lawyers, but like there's somebody, right? There's somebody who again executed this contract. They know this, and that's it. So anything else is just speculation. But again, Duke has to think about: do they want to go to the lengths and expense to sue one player who clearly doesn't want to be here? Right? Like that's what it is. But is it for the greater good of college football? And are they supposed to be the leaders of that? And that's a big question. It's not a question that is solved emotionally. It's solved with people like me in a room all weekend on a holiday weekend of all times to do this. But I also will say this is very interesting. Duke wins the ACC. That is the reason why Miami got into this college football playoff. The ACC allows teams that enter the college football playoff to keep all that college playoff money. So Miami getting to the national championship game, they've gotten $20 million. And our reward is they're trying to poach our quarterback, right? I think you mentioned, European soccer and just soccer in general. As these talk about employees happen, one thing that because if you think about it, right, coaches can leave all the time. Coaches, when they leave for another school, they have contracts too. But there's something in that contract that allows them to leave, whether it's a buyout, whether there's some provision that allows them to leave. And if these college kids are employees of the school, they can negotiate those sort of deals with those type of buyouts. And schools can negotiate multi-year deals with their players with some buyouts. And if that's the case and another team wants to come through and say, hell, we actually want your quarterback, we could do transfer fees, right? That happens in the business world all the time. Like, hey, we'll do this. We'll pay you this over here to release this guy from his contract so he can sign with us. It doesn't just happen in sports. But that is something that would put it into this. And again, would make it where we wouldn't have to worry about at the 11th hour some guy deciding to flip and leaving us in a lurch, because at least we have X amount of money doing it. And this happens in soccer all the time too. The deadline, of the transfer window closes, and all of a sudden you see a flurry of transactions because people are like trying to get deals across the line before it shuts. But at least everyone's going to know about what's happening, and it doesn't feel like a player is abandoning his team at the 11th hour. It relies more on what teams can get. And of course, the rumors out there are that Duke is pursuing DJ Lagway, which has been reported on a bunch of different sites. DJ Lagway, of course, committed to Baylor, but hasn't signed yet. So I'm sure a lot of people out there who are mad at Mensah would be very happy to get DJ Lagway as a consolation prize when, in essence, we're kind of in this world. And we have to approach it with the understanding that for Duke to become better and to continue to compete for championships, this is a part of that reality. It really sucks that it happens to us, it feels like, every year. But we got Mensah through the portal. We lost him to the portal. Our last 3 guys, our last 2 quarterbacks have come via the portal from other institutions. And that's how we have to thrive and survive in this college football world. But that doesn't mean it's not ugly. That doesn't mean that Darian Mensah didn't burn bridges, because he absolutely did. And it's evident, not just by my words, by your words, Scott. It's evident by the players and how they're reacting to this. Some of these players clearly did not know this was going down on Friday night, just like a lot of us. So I think that's where we hang our heads. And I think the other tailing thing was the very next day, was a Saturday. They had that picture of every player, with the exception of maybe one or two, in the exercise room in the gym, working out together, and they had that picture saying we're not stopping. That was a clear statement that if you don't want to be here, cool, don't be here. But we have an ACC championship to defend, and I'm glad that at least those guys are embracing the people that are left to say, this is the core that's going to get it done. Well, we got a lot of work to do. Let's get going.
My last thought on the subject is this. There are issues in society, in lines of work, etc., that an individual can solve, that an individual can take a stand and put themselves out on a limb, and that can be enough to stem the tide. There are also issues that require collective action, that if you go out on that limb by yourself, all you're doing is actually shooting yourself in the foot, because one isn't enough. If everyone else is playing by one set of rules and you're playing by a different set of rules, you're really just hurting yourself. There are a lot of situations like that in academic research. There are tons of problems that we know we have, but we also know that it takes collective buy-in to fix them. If you just try to, take a moral stand on your own, you're really just shooting yourself in the foot. You're shooting your trainees in the foot, et cetera, et cetera. This feels like one of those situations where if Duke wanted to, Duke could put itself out on the limb, say to the world that contracts at Duke mean something, and we're going to go through every step and every legal measure, blah, blah, blah. But you're right that in the grand scheme of things, the odds of that changing anything are so slim to none. The only way this works is collective action, is if a whole conference or a whole group of schools together says, we need to change the way this works, and we're going to do this in XYZ way, and get the players to buy in as well. This takes collective action. And as long as college athletic departments and the NCAA are content with putting out a bunch of little fires rather than collectively putting out the root cause of those fires, this is going to keep happening. Darian Mensah situations are going to happen in every sport, in every year, in every transfer window, until the root cause is collectively addressed. And Duke can't be responsible for doing that on its own. It's not in Duke's best interest. It's not in Darian Mensah's best interest. Well, maybe he's already done what's in his best interest, arguably. But it's not in anyone's best interest, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I'm not waiting by the phone for Jim Phillips in the ACC to help out Duke, right, in this situation, especially when he's going to the, quote, one of the darlings of the conference on the football side. I'm not waiting by the phone for him to do something about that, especially as we mentioned, they're a little over 24 hours from playing in a national championship game at home. So I'm not necessarily concerned that I'm not worried about having to wait for them to do something. But you're right. It takes a lot. It's going to take a lot of dominoes to fall for this whole thing to, really, really yield some points. Because again, Darian Mensah next year, if he does end up at Miami, and I will say there are still other teams who claim that they're other teams' fan bases who claim that they're offering him the moon. But I will say that next year, if he's at Miami, it will be the second year in a row that he faces the team that he left, right? Because Duke is going down there at some point next year. I will also end with this. There, obviously, I had talked about some of the stuff that was targeted towards me personally in the, again, emotional aftermath of Darian Mensah hitting the portal. I've obviously received a lot of emails since then. I thank everybody for their wishes, their notes. Really, really appreciate that. But again, it's not about me as an alum of both universities. This still is weird to have to, you talk about it too, right? You have Elliot Cadeau on your team on Michigan, right? Like we can't help you with that, right? But it's also, it brings up the situation that you, I'm sure, can relate to of, hey, these are our teams. And like tomorrow in the national championship game, despite what has happened, I'm still rooting for Miami because that's my school. And the thing is, I'm not going to run away from my school because of one thing. Just like if Duke poaches somebody from Miami, my Miami friends would not want me to abandon ship, right? That's what it is about. And at the end of the day, these are my two schools. I hate that my starting quarterback has left the school that I really, really love and really care about, and the football team that I worked for, that I was a member of in a staff capacity for 3 years. I saw some terrible football. The fact that we are ACC champions right now is the greatest thing in the world to me. It's online with basketball hopefully getting national championship number 6 in April. But I have to conflate that with the fact that I'm going to put on these Miami colors tomorrow and cheer for a team that's probably going to get dusted by Indiana because they are a really good football team. But after that, still have that weirdness of I will watch Darian Mensah potentially suit up for them next year when he should be suiting up for my football team. And so it's an interesting situation that a lot of dual alums have to deal with. I didn't ask for Miami to join the ACC the day after I got into its law school from the Big East. I thought I was going to have a Big East team for life. And instead, they got thrown into the Coastal Division with us. So I've had to deal with this for 20 years. But at the end of the day, it's something that I'm going to continue to deal with. And I really appreciate, again, the people thinking, sending me notes, and it's really appreciated. But I just want to, again, throw that out there that I ain't do this. I didn't ask for this. But it's happening, and we have to deal with it.
College sports fandom is not logical.
Correct.
And it doesn't have to be. For me, as someone who is, a scientist who has to think rationally and logically all the time, college sports is my escape. It's the time where I get to say, yes, I know logically it's really silly for my emotional well-being to be so invested in how good 18 to 22-year-old young men are at playing football or basketball. But you know what? Give me this one thing. I don't have to rationalize this. I don't have to explain it to you. I tried. While I was in Canada for 7 years, I tried to explain to my Canadian friends why I was so sad that Duke lost a basketball game. Canadians never understood and never could understand, and that's fine. It's fine. So you don't have to explain yourself, Donald. You are entitled to something in your life that is just purely emotional and fun and doesn't follow reason or logic. When I was growing up, Chris Chelios was evil, dirty, horrible enemy hockey player. And then he got traded to the Red Wings. And then he was great. And he's
the greatest guy ever.
And I went to school with a couple of his kids. And you know what? If I think about that for more than 5 seconds, I recognize how dumb that is. But I don't, because you're allowed to have something that's fun. Sports can just be fun. I hope that college sports can just remain that fun thing for us and doesn't go so far off the deep end that we lose that.
Yeah. And the fun will continue next month, Scott, when we're in DC and Duke is facing Michigan.
Yes.
Again, another one of those dilemmas.
I will be wearing my Duke blue, sitting next to my dad, and I believe in the Michigan section. So I will be in my Duke gear with all of my Michigan alum, family and friends who I normally wear Michigan gear with. It's going to be a real fun time.
Yeah. And hopefully I'll see you there. I'm sure I'll see you there. We'll talk about the pregame, which will be fun. But again, that will do it for this episode of DBR Bites. We wanted to get back on here. As I mentioned, Jason is on his way back. So Scott, thank you for standing in for Jason for 2 weeks.
It's been so
great.
Fun.
It's been so much fun. And of course, we're going to have you back on again down the line. And obviously, we'll be chatting about all these games. And all of you out there, again, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. We hope to have some stuff this week. Of course, we're going to get Jason back in the chair, and we'll continue this discussion. But until then, he's Scott. I'm Donald. Now it's time for the Duke Band to play us out and take us home.